Hello 3D1s, this is the beginning of lesson 0.3, types of mistakes and mindsets. The objectives for this lesson are identify the 3 types of mistakes people make while learning, explain why mistakes are important when learning, and explain the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So mistakes are a good thing, believe it or not. At this point in your life, you might start to think mistakes are something bad. They're something to be avoided. But when we are learning something new, mistakes are a good thing. Why? Making mistakes show that you actually tried. You made an effort and you actually tried. Mistakes are a workout for the brain because your brain is doing something new. Mistakes give you ownership of your learning because you are taking control of what you're learning. Mistakes show you what doesn't work. Mistakes help you notice a concept that you wouldn't have seen otherwise, right? You made a realization due to the mistake that you made. Mistakes help you set realistic expectations about your abilities and skills. They kind of make you realize, oh, I'm not an expert in this subject because I'm still learning. And mistakes help you understand why a method didn't work, which can actually lead you to the correct solution. And of course, this all depends on the situation and subject in which you are making a mistake. Mistakes also make the moment when you finally solve it that much sweeter, right? When you finally figure it out, you're like, oh, I get it now. Mistakes in an art class, that might seem kind of odd because when we think about art, how can you make a mistake in an art class? Well, often by the high school level, students are afraid to try really because they're afraid of failure. Think back to an art class in kindergarten, right? Those are kids that are 4, 5, 6 years old. They're like totally into what we're doing and they want to try and they're going to try anything and they're not afraid of making a mistake, right? Why? Why is that? What happened between kindergarten and high school? Yes, sometimes we can become frustrated when learning something new. I have seen this with my own students. When they're learning something new in an art class, sometimes they get visibly frustrated and they actually try to avoid trying anything in the class then. Making art does mean taking a risk. When I try a new art medium, I am taking a risk. And the feedback, though, you get in an art class, that feedback is meant to help you improve. It might be steering you in the right direction or just helping you understand what went wrong. And failure, it's not a reflection of your self-worth. Keep that in mind. So mistakes, they're actually part of the creative process. The creative process is the process that we do as artists to make a work of art. So should you be able to create a masterpiece immediately, right? Really? Is that the expectation? So the creation of art is about working and reworking your ideas until you get it right. And there's a lot of meaning to what is right. Practice and gaining experience is part of the creative process. And your work doesn't have to be perfect because when you think about it, who sets the standard for perfect? There are 3 types of mistakes. The first one is called careless mistakes. The second type of mistake are called computational mistakes. And then the third one is called conceptual mistakes. So we're going to go through each one now. Careless mistakes is just they happen when you're not paying attention or you're working too fast. So some examples in our class might include copying down the wrong information. You're not paying attention to the tools that you're using, especially during ceramics. You're not following the directions. You're not putting away your artwork properly. You're trying to skip a step in order to finish more quickly. Or you're becoming distracted by others in the room and you're not paying attention to what you're doing. I've seen that happen. So how do you avoid careless mistakes? First of all, slow down, circle the important information on your notes if you're in the process of taking notes, and be sure to listen and read directions. Computational mistakes. Now, this might be a little harder to find in an art class, but computational mistakes means somewhere when you're problem solving, you didn't estimate or determine ahead of time. So some examples in our class might be such as leaving your clay project out because you were going to return to it to work on it during study hall, but you totally forgot about the time and you had went to a different study hall class and now your project has dried out. I've seen that happen. Another example is you're measuring and cutting apart your clay slabs, but then when you start construction, you realize you measured the wrong sizes and now you have to start over, right? You didn't determine ahead of time the sizes that you needed. So how do you avoid computational mistakes? We need to slow down once again, be aware of the time during class, and measure twice, cut once. That's a good thing to think of when you need to cut up anything with a tool. Measure twice so you're sure of what you need to do. The last type of mistakes are called conceptual mistakes. These are mistakes that occur when you misunderstand the underlying concepts or have used incorrect logic. And I see this sometimes in art classes. This can be really hard to identify, but it's the most important type to catch and correct. And you can make these types of mistakes in all of your classes in high school. So a mistake includes your clay project, it's dried to bone dry, but hasn't been fired yet. So you think, well, I should be able to attach clay to my project. But when the work is finally fired, the pieces fall off because the clay that you attached was not the same stage, as in the clay that you attached to your project wasn't bone dry. So how do you avoid conceptual mistakes? How do you avoid them? So listen to directions, check your notes. If you're unsure, ask a question, or rewatch the instructional video to review. Remember, we're doing self-paced learning here. So remember, mistakes are okay. Mistakes make your brain grow. Mistakes are proof that you're trying. And don't regret your mistakes. Learn from them. Believe me, I've made my own mistakes when I took art classes in college. So how do we approach mistakes and failures in an art class? So we have to think about this term called a mindset. So what is a mindset? This is a lens to view the world with. It's about your beliefs about intelligence. Like, are we born smart, or is this something that we develop over time? Like a trait, it can be changed. So there's these two types of mindsets. The first one's called a growth mindset. This means when you're frustrated, you persevere. You want to challenge yourself. When you fail, you go, okay, I'm learning in the process. If you succeed, you're inspired. Having a fixed mindset, though, means like no matter how hard I try, I'm not good. I suck at it. I don't do well. Or when you're really frustrated, you're like, forget it. I'm going to give up. I don't care. This is too hard. You don't like challenges because you think you're going to fail. You want to be told that you're smart. You feel like you need that validation from other people. So mindset is actually a theory. It's been shown to help people develop perseverance and grit. Perseverance and grit are very good habits to have in an art class. And so, when you start something new, you might think, am I going to succeed or fail? Will I look smart or dumb? Will I be accepted or rejected? Will I feel like a winner or will I feel like a loser? So mindset about talent, especially in an art class, like think about it. Where does your belief fit in? Do you have a growth mindset in that art making skills can improve with time and effort? Or do you have a fixed mindset? Art making skills are innate and cannot change, which means I cannot develop art skills. I either have them or I don't. How about feedback? How do you react to feedback? With a growth mindset, typically you choose to learn from others' feedback. Now, I will say sometimes not all feedback is helpful. So that's when you start to learn, okay, which feedback should I really pay attention to? Or do you have a fixed mindset in that you discredit others' feedback? You hear the feedback and you're like, whatever, I don't care. It's your feedback. Or what about mindsets about new experiences in art, right? Because for a lot of you, ceramics is a new experience in art. So where do you fit in? Do you have a growth mindset? Well, you're welcome trying new techniques, methods, and mediums, right? You're like, hey, this is new. I'm going to try it out, see what happens. Or do you have a fixed mindset? You get frustrated when you try new techniques, methods, and mediums. You're like, dude, I've never done clay before. I hate it. I've never done it. I can't do it. Like, what? So these are 10 growth mindset statements. These are things you can say to yourself. So if you say like, I give up, right? I give up. I can't do it. Maybe instead you'll say, you know what? I'll use some of the strategies we've learned in class. Or this is way too hard. This is just way too hard. I can't do it. Well, instead think, this is going to take some time and effort to learn. Or I made a mistake, right? Well, mistakes help me learn better. So again, having a growth mindset, it takes time to develop. It's a habit you really have to be aware of and develop.